Morning, viewer of UBC from wherever you are watching us and following us on the different social media platforms. This is Pan-African Friday coming to you all the way from the Nile Avenue here in Kampala, courtesy of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. Now, today, our broadcast may be interrupted at some point because you may be aware that we, for those at least in Uganda, will be having a live broadcast from Luwero, and that's to do with the Heroes Day of Uganda. It has a lot of history which maybe we'll have time to share. But until then, we'll be here with you. And as usual in the studio, I'm joined by the now usual panelists who will be talking to you any moment from now. But as usual, we usually start our discussion of Pan-African Friday with what has transpired on this continent of Africa, or issues that have happened, but with the dimension of Africa interest or impacting the African people, both up in the country, on the continent, but also outside of Africa. And like I said, in the studio, we are completely, I think, a full house today. I have people who have joined me, and you'll be seeing them. And with that, as I said, we usually start with what has happened in the week. We look at the week at a glance in the African, through the African lenses and in the African context. My name is James Mtuta. I'll be the one moderating this program. But I will now start off with the only woman in the house, Sister Ntakali, to tell us what she may have captured in this week in the African continent, on the African continent. Rachel, please talk to us.
I have to start at home, but with an eye, of course, on the African scene. We know that the president has just delivered the other day the State of the Nation address. But for me...
We're talking about the president of Uganda.
Yes, President Yoweri Museveni.
Yeah.
But for me, what stood out in terms of the African aspirations was that he noted that Uganda exports up to 86% of all its output to the regional neighbors, actually the greater African area, but more immediately, the East African community area consumes up to 57% of what we export. So I'm thinking, in terms of actualizing the Pan-African experience, Uganda has made some strides. But further afield, Dr. Ruto has been making waves with his insistence that the people of COMESA and Africa in general really need to start focusing more heavily on dealing with the question of a single currency. Dr. Ruto has lately been championing this cause with the full conviction that unless we do something about this matter, the issue of non-tariff barriers, the issue of intra-African trade will remain a pipe dream. So for me, he stands out as a champion this particular week for the African cause. Sure. Then, of course, there is what is continuing in the Sudan, which is rather tragic. That war is escalating. The paramilitary forces and the Central Army are at it. They're refusing to make headway on the negotiation table, which is rather really unfortunate. And I think even more unfortunate, the people who are most engaged in trying to get a negotiated solution are the United States and Saudi Arabia. I don't know how far behind our African brothers and selected presidents are in securing this particular prize.
They're still working on meeting Russia and Ukraine first.
Well, I don't know about first. They were making some, they made some movement talking about IGAD and so on. But I think they are also not making that much progress. These two antagonists are increasing their stake in this slaughter. The United States in particular has gone on to sanction some of the companies that are providing weapons on either side of the equation.
Liars.
Well, pretenders, if you will.
Yeah, but, yeah, okay.
And of course, this is one of the more laughable, maybe not laughable, but on a lighter note. In Nigeria, not very long ago, the outgoing Senate passed a bill that will outlaw sexual harassment. I know, Ndugu Mututa, you may not be a champion of these sorts of of legislation, but there they are.
Are you saying I support sexual harassment?
Not really, but maybe you don't consider it as serious to the matter of legislating.
Okay, now that you talk about it, and now you brought me in because I didn't want to talk about it. What is the legislation about? Let's understand it.
To make sure that
many people will also want to know that.
Okay, to make sure, and this came out of a BBC investigation a number of years ago, where they found that lecturers and professors in particular were very high on the list of sexual harassers in Nigeria, exchanging marks for sexual favors and so on and so forth. And there were very loud noises concerning the fact that this behavior was not limited to the education sphere, and that something needed to be done in terms of legislative measures to make sure that there are sanctions that are heavy enough to discourage this sort of behavior. So that is at least where they are in Nigeria at this time.
Yeah, that is, of course, this issue of sex for marks is not a new thing when it comes to universities. And I think even in Uganda here, we have had all those stories where girls specifically.
But in Uganda they haven't legislated. Nigeria has.
Yeah, but that was good. But you know, one thing which I understand is that, of course, for a lecturer to be so cheap and stupid to ask for sex from a student that you can give marks, I think is not only illegal, but also you must be having a problem, because by the time you are a lecturer, you are a teacher, you are a parent to these people, and people look upon you for guidance, but also for mentorship. Now, if there is a cheap man or woman, I'm not sure it is only men, that can go that way, then it means that that person is not fit to be in the education system of any country, even wherever women have lived.
Oh, Ndugu Mututa, before I forget.
Also the other way around.
Which is also true.
The girls throw themselves to the male lecturers. And
yeah, because I know of idiots also who don't want to study, but they're all the time they're out clubbing, but they would want to have the marks. We have heard of stories of students who have even put on gowns and gone for graduation with parents, and when they have not been in
any class.
So I think such a person, you could also understand if they have their club, they would also claim that they want also their legislation to allow themselves so that they can have marks, so that they can graduate at the end of the day. I mean, if it comes to that, it can come that cheap. But I also want to look at it in this way. When it comes to issues of sexual legislation, it's becoming tricky. Last time we were discussing here that there are things that we as Africans are falling for, but we may not be looking at the implications in the future. We started with this issue of emancipation of women, which definitely is not a problem, because women need to be emancipated. But you also look at it, that what was the missing gap in Africa, and could these gaps be addressed by our own systems than having to rely on someone telling us this is how women. Now, after we did that, we're now realizing that it becomes a human right, right issues are coming in. But what about the boy child in the future? So these are things that we need to look at, because a child in a home where the woman or the girl or a boy needs to be treated in a good way. Now, away from that, issues of policing people's private lives can be tricky, and that's why we are crippling with this anti-gay thing. Because what is done in private is very hard to legislate, because two people sit together and they do things including like corruption when people are in their confines, and the constitutions, most of the constitutions, not only Uganda, provide for that exclusivity, their right to privacy, and so that becomes a problem. But what needs to be looked at is the general view of now this is to do with values. If you are a teacher, you know you are a parent. And as a parent, you are supposed to mentor these girls or these boys to a level that they will be able to look at to you for guidance, to look at you as their mentor and their teacher. And that is very important. For me, that's what I believe.
True. Lugumututa, even if I forget, the last one that I recall on the African scene. The trouble there for a while in Senegal. And Mr. Sonko, who's an aspiring presidential candidate, so we are told. Also. And he's now sentenced to do some time for rape, they say. There was some upheaval there in Senegal. I think it's under control now, but that was unfortunate.
Yeah, but again, you are bringing the same thing of Sonko, which is related to what we have been discussing, because the government accuses Sonko of having harassed a girl.
He said rape.
Of course, they started that raping a girl who was working in a brothel. Now, they are now saying, no, it was not rape, but teaching bad manners to the youth, whatever that means. But how can you be a virgin when you are working in a brothel?
She's also raped
exactly.
And you should
no, they alleged.
You should read the retired Justice Katusi's judgment. Very powerful one after that.
So
I'm coming next to it. Is my
no, you can come in now that you are there.
Okay, just a few things for me this week. One, it was all not good news in Court of Appeal. My senior brother Mwema was not having a good day with his client.
Supreme Court.
Supreme.
I was there yesterday.
You are covering. Miss and
what you took from what?
Yes. As a journalist, you must have been covering. And of course, I wouldn't want to go into the merits and demerits of it, but
justice was
the scenes that really play out. No, they didn't read the judgment.
Tuesday next week.
Says it's disenfranchised.
They told him that he should wait for the judgment, but my senior brother Mwema wanted to. He had an application, I think, which he wanted to argue out, and they said no. It is now time for judgment. Just wait for judgment. And hell broke loose. One, that is, but let's see, because it's quite a big story. We all remember where Hamis started from as a young enterprising man. The issue of banking, the laws related to banking, and his particular case. And I have looked at Justice Dr. Daniel's judgment, which he gave to Hamis. It is also another interesting piece to look at. So it all will depend on what the Supreme Court will say finally. But I'm telling you, it raises this whole matter raises so much that we need to get concerned with as citizens of this country. Then two, we have had our own president declare that he is COVID positive, and he has gone into isolation, giving the reins of power to the Prime Minister. I want to believe that there is a new wave of COVID, just that we don't go for testing. But when you look at the population these days, they are either having serious cough serious flu, and it is very rampant. But we pray for...
The reason I'm putting on my mask.
We pray for our president.
Oh, you say we have COVID?
He's a very resilient man, and I'm very optimistic that he will get out of this. Then in South Africa, or for that matter, the member countries that were gave themselves the responsibility of mediating between Ukraine and Russia have finally said they are very ready, and I think next month they are going to go to that. And interesting,
While
Russia,
Sudan is on fire.
Russia, you know, those are the contradictions of the generation. You are right, those are the contradictions, because we have argued here that we may not, but before we even get to the standing army, Africa standing army, which we must have, by the way.
By the way.
If we don't get that, it will be a very big challenge. But what are the interventions of African Union in as far as Sudan is concerned? Then what about you are talking about IGAD. I'm looking at IGAD. When you look at the composition of IGAD and what it purposes to achieve over time, I think it's a bit of a challenge that we may have IGAD here as such a strong force to mediate in the issues, the political and military issues of Sudan. I think we needed a direct voice from African Union.
Exactly.
Peace and security is, as a whole directorate, is there. Then we have also had Trump argue that he's very sure he's going to be indicted second time, and that he knows the reasons.
What should he be sure?
That for him, he's not giving up. He's fighting a just cause.
I like that.
And,
which one?
Trump's just cause. You know Trump's just cause. America first. That's what he says. Whatever that means, we can argue until cows come back.
I hope he doesn't also get accused of another rape during this.
No, he was. There's a woman there.
And finally, of course, we have had today being the National Heroes Day. The concept of heroism is a very challenging one, especially on the African continent. And I want to believe that in dissecting how far Africa has kept with the agenda of our heroes as we know them is also a very big question altogether. But nevertheless, it is very important that we keep in touch with some of these big days, because it is the recollection and reflection upon the characters that have shaped this continent that we can benchmark and we also achieve, because it is upon the shoulders of the forefathers upon which we stand to achieve what is in future for us.
Okay, thanks, Ndugu Garama. And let's now hear from the man.
Thank you very much, comrades seated here, and thank you so much, the viewers.
Yeah, you're excused because Ndugu Irumba says he's fearing COVID, so he has to be sitting in the middle.
I don't know where she has been for the last 1 week. I have not seen her. I suspect 2 weeks.
And what about you? Where have you been?
So it's good you also suspect me. So it's good each of us suspects the other.
Yeah.
Let me begin with my comrade's submission. Just a few highlights on the case at the Supreme Court between DTB and the HAM. I've been covering this story since it began, and I am very interested in it as an investigative journalist. And so yesterday, by actually 9, I was already seated waiting for them. Number one, Comrade Lugarama, we need to isolate 3 issues that Comrade Ham Chigundu and his lawyer are saying. Number one is that Chigundu says DTB went to his account.
Which one? Kenya, Uganda?
DTB Uganda, in liaison with Kenya. Because remember, he borrowed this money from DTB Kenya. but they mandated the Ugandan branch to be done to tax.
Collect.
He contends that DTB Uganda here was actually deducting his money stealthily without his knowledge. By the time he woke up, they had deducted over 200 billion. But the money that DTB had borrowed him was 120 billion. But this one was being deducted without his knowledge. You get it? That is point number one. So we need to understand. Number two, he contends, he's a lawyer. He contends he has a contractual obligation with DTB Kenya, not Uganda. That one we should also understand legally. Is he correct or not? Third, DTB Uganda had no license to transact business in Uganda. In other words, it was doing business here illegally. Now, it did not end at that, but it even went ahead to deduct their clients' money.
How? Anyway.
Illegally. No, let me finish. So, I want
so those are two illegalities.
I want the viewers to understand these issues. So that when we are arguing, I have seen some people accusing Ham, you took their money, you pay the money, you
why don't you pay?
First, listen to his arguments. Is it true that there are banks here that go and deduct your money without your knowledge? They steal 50 shillings. Now, like, Ham is very rich. You can even steal 100,000 every day, and he does not know. So by the time he came to know, that much money had been even beyond what he had borrowed.
He even called for a reconciliation. He said, let's compare notes.
They refused it. So he has an argument. Those are 3 points.
I am your client. You lent me money. I am saying I have overpaid you. You are saying no. I have said fine.
Let us
get your own people. Let me get mine. We reconcile. So you refuse.
Okay.
What are you saying?
But the ruling is coming up when?
Tuesday. But I'm coming there.
That ruling was made. That ruling.
That's a different matter. Let me first explain. I want the viewers watching us
because
to
I didn't want us to divulge into an issue which will turn out to be prejudicial.
No. There is no issue here. The judgment, the ruling actually was made. Now, he won the case. Now, those are 3 issues he raises. What is the other matter? The other matter is that after the justice making his ruling, now it no longer became a law issue, it now became a political matter. Remember, the lawyers of DTB is Kijowa Kiwanuka. Before he was an attorney general. Now he's an attorney general. Now, the second one who is... Now, the second one, yesterday who came to stand in, because it is KK, those are the chambers, Kiriowa, Kiwanuka, and Karujiri. So yesterday, the one who came to stand in for Kiriowa, because they have the same chambers, is Karujiri. Ham contends and alleges in his own argument that this issue now is they are no longer following the law, because even the justice who made the ruling in favor of Ham was transferred to Soroti.
Yeah, because people are being transferred anyway.
But in his opinion, his transfer is suspect also. So that's why they have decided, them according to what they had, the law has been twisted to say otherwise. And the one who even made a just ruling has been vindicated and no, victimized rather. Victimized and even sent away outside Kampala, go to Soroti there and be there. And even his powers were reduced. Here he was in charge of...
Yeah, because what I'm saying
it shows that there is something.
Head commercial division.
He was head commercial. Now there, he is a resident judge. So it means...
Powerful demotion.
It is a powerful demotion.
Because
now he is being punished for such a ruling that he made.
Are we saying that... because if you excluded the Attorney General by association and the Karugire by association, what would be the politics about it? Because, in other words, much as these people could be involved in the administration, but also related to the political families, does it matter? Because I have seen also people who are holding offices but have been lawyers. So for me, I don't believe that it could be politics. Politics can influence things. But I believe there are also other matters that we also need to know. I don't believe that court will sit down and, of course, there are a number of issues that have happened in this country, and of course there are other African countries that will sit down and you are like, wow, this one shouldn't have happened that way. But I think at the end of it, when you look at the justice system, I still have a belief in that the justice system will still prevail. If Ham has an issue with the bank in Uganda being illegal or not having a license, then how was he's dealing with the one in Kenya, and which has a branch here? Now, are we looking for an apex? Can he go to the East African court for that matter to appeal this case?
I think that's a different matter. But what we have to look at is, did DTB Uganda contravene the supreme law of the land? The judge, the one they have now sent to Soroti, made it categorically clear that you people, you are illegally transacting business in Uganda. And therefore,
to this day or just in the past?
I don't know whether they have now got to the races.
Administratively, they could have adjusted, but like I said, the truth of the matter is, when you look at Justice Dr. Denyo's judgment, it answers all that. Whether the people who finally dealt with harm actually had a contractual obligation with harm, answer was no. No. You see? So that is a settled. It's a matter of law.
Yes.
We are not going to romance about anything.
And
this
so
is the law.
You cannot illegitimize an illegal activity, and then you have come to the temple of justice.
So what happens?
So it is impunity of transnational
and we
companies?
haven't even said, by the way, maybe
no,
that
but really,
Hamis has never said, I don't want to pay the money. No.
He has already paid.
His contention, and Mwamba has time and again said, his contention is that I have actually paid you and overpaid you. Now, what I paid,
you know why I'm laughing?
Whatever other balances I overpaid, you will bring it.
Why I'm laughing is the issue of a married man who fathered the kid with a prostitute.
Okay.
And the prostitute wants the benefits of looking after the child. And there is the housewife.
Anyway, that was now. I was now responding to his comment. Now let me go to the second one.
Anyway,
the second one is I wanted to comment about the State of the Nation address. One of the most interesting bits for me was about homosexuality and the agriculture sector. The president said 70% of Ugandans are in agriculture. Yeah? Vis-a-vis in America and so on, it is 1.3% of the population and so on.
Who are highly subsidized.
Yes, and now that shows, if you want to know that your country is poor, look at how many people are in agriculture. And so he was comparing 70% of Ugandans in agriculture vis-a-vis the Western world. So he said, this is a sign of poverty. Now, here is my argument. Let's look at, if we really believe that 70% of our population is in agriculture, how much are we investing in agriculture? Where is what they call modernization of agriculture? Yeah? People, the 70% population is still using hand hoe, survival, just to dig and eat. And yet, you have been making, round trips across the country, educating people to now go into commercial agriculture. How are you going to transform these people from home consumption agriculture to commercial agriculture when they are still using hoes? So how much are you investing in this? So for me, that was some kind of a contradiction.
Okay.
Number two, homosexuality. He said, if you are doing your business alone there, two adults are doing their business there in their room, there is no problem. The problem comes if we get you recruiting and promoting. I don't know whether the president is trying to edit or amend the law here. The law that has been passed is actually different. Because police can arrest you on suspicion that you're going to commit a crime. They have done it to Besige. So even this law, as it is now, if we suspect Mr. Muluta that you have entered with a fellow man in the room and locked yourselves, we can break that house with the police, and if we get any signs that we are doing anything, even if you have not come to tell us,
yes,
if we get any evidence of an activity related to homosexuality, you should be arrested and jailed. So I don't want the president to start massaging this law to suit the World Bank woman who called him. You get it? This one you can speak to manage your politics. But I would like to implore police and all other state agencies to act on homosexuality suspects. Just like a police will arrest Besige that they suspect he's going to commit a crime. There are signs that a homosexual can be seen with. If that house is being suspected of being housing homosexual acts, police should come in. Police has always broken into. The other day I saw them jumping over a fence to arrest the sheikh. Sheikh who?
Kamoga.
Sheikh Kamoga.
He was not killing anyone. Yeah. He was in his compound.
They jumped over and they arrested those boys. They brutally arrested them, beat them up, and finally, what charges did they have? I saw there is nothing. So why do you want to massage the homosexuals? No, is it because of your money? If it's about your money, you take it back, please. Where are we born with your money, by the way? We are not born with your money. So for me, I don't want to agree with the president talking, seeming to be, you want to go, you don't want to go.
Sounding
no.
politically correct.
You want to go, you don't want to go. Let it be clear, homosexuality in Africa and beginning with Uganda is a no-go area.
Now, I think I also captured, picked the present thinking, particularly on agriculture, or come to homosexuality, and many people also speak about it. But I think on agriculture, I was saying that the more people we have involved in agriculture is the sign of backwardness and poverty, because you are generally producing for survival, for subsistence. And you can imagine that, for me, I still believe that that is true, to the extent that today, even if you try to modernize the farmers that are there today, you may not be able to achieve this that the president is talking about. Because you are not going to get a man who is today in my village using his hoe to get him to modernize that type of agriculture into maybe mechanization. You need a lot in this transition. And what maybe needs to also be looked at when you are talking about Americans having that smaller percentage of people involved in agriculture, but they are producing that much that is feeding America and even Africa, you also need to look at the social systems, the support that these people have.
The mechanization.
Exactly.
Of agriculture,
now
mechanization.
Here, we have been having this argument. When you look at most of this, the Americas, the Europeans, and now the Asians are coming in, you realize that the biggest population of these people are those who cannot, the poor ones, are the ones who are living in urban areas, to the extent that they can be able to access education, medical care, these old health services, and all these other services that government provides of water, electricity, blah blah, housing. Now, for us, the rich ones are the ones that are living in the countryside. They can afford insurance if they are sick. they can afford transport, they can fly if they want. They need big farms, big land to be able to cultivate. Now for us here we have swapped. It is the rich people,
vice versa.
yes, the rich people who are living in town, in urban areas, who are accessing government facilities, and the poor ones are left in the rural areas that those don't even, well, sometimes there's no road. When they are sick, they are put on wheelbarrows. For those who can even have a road to have a wheelbarrow, or they can. But now, what the president is saying is that if we can do that swap, that we have more people who are staying in urban areas, like, and he mentioned that, and then the rural area can be saved for agriculture, where a few people who can afford to do mechanization can do production to produce enough food for the rest of us. That's the sign of advancement that the president is talking about. But for today, even if you pushed all this money in agriculture, while people are still having a horse, and transforming these people who are having a horse into tractors is going to be very tricky.
Okay, I wanted to talk about also to respond to or comment about Comrade Rachel's
sex harassment.
No. Ruto, single currency for Africa. Single currency for Africa. Ruto is less than a year old in power. Gaddafi spent 42 years in power. Ruto should know what killed Gaddafi.
I said that earlier.
Ruto should know what killed Gaddafi. Gaddafi was not killed because of anything internal. No.
As they call
Should also know what killed Saddam.
Yes, Gaddafi was fighting for United States of Africa, USA. He wanted one single currency for Africa.
Saddam wanted the euro for his oil.
He wanted a borderless Africa. Ruto,
you people, Ndugu Garama and Rachel and Ndugu
Ruto, be careful.
How many times, and for me, you know, I'm not the darling of Ruto. But on this one, really,
no, we are saying he should sign his death warrant, because this giant of imperialism will consume him.
Because me I support a person who,
and that is not to say that he's wrong. No, he's very correct.
He's not even wrong, but how many times you know you are going to die anyway? If you are to die, today we're talking about heroes. Heroes, in heroism, there is a mixture of bravery but stupidity.
Oh.
So, at one point, you are going to die anyway.
Not before your time, is what we're saying.
But even if before your time, if we say someone is standing with his stick saying, do this, I mean, that we are not going to do anything as Africa.
For me, I'm saying.
But some of these voices, when they start coming, and more voices come,
for me,
maybe if Gaddafi was not dancing alone, if he was not trusting people like your friend from South Africa, like Zuma, maybe he would have had.
But do you know why the others are far away? They love their lives.
But with your life, you love it, but you are still staying a captive.
No, comrade,
so let's come out.
Comrade Mtuta, let me just make a few remarks on this. Of course, I see where Comrade Irumba is coming from. Certainly, I share his concerns.
And
that
fears.
We had a Patrice Lumumba who delivered a speech, his inauguration speech, as the Prime Minister of DRC.
Yeah, we're talking about heroes, by the way.
Yes, and questioned the distribution of the wealth of DRC. He didn't last a year. He was supposed to be moving to African Union along with his friends. They killed him. A combination of Belgium intelligence and CIA. The likes of Thomas Sankara, the likes of Samora Machel, Amilcar Cabral, we know all of them. So yes, but you see, if we had not gotten that group of leaders who said we are aware that we are putting our lives on the line.
Exactly.
But all the same, we shall go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Would we have had the physical liberation of African continent?
We will not be talking about heroes today.
The comrade,
no, this one is different.
Comrade Dr. Ruto.
This is not this.
Comrade Dr. Ruto.
Don't mix these two things.
Comrade Dr. Ruto.
The heroes day of today, Uganda has nothing to do with the liberation of Africa.
I agree.
Comrade Dr. Ruto Yes, maybe he's a president for 1 year, but he has been in leadership for more than 27 years, if my memory serves me right, and in very critical positions. He is not naive in any way. He knows what happens when it comes to foreign policy. He knows how the imperialist operates, and he has seen it unfold under his own eyes. But frankly speaking, we must stand, and the emperor must be told that
naked.
he is naked.
Sure.
Because Ruto is not reinventing the wheel. We have got the EYAKA Treaty. EYAKA Treaty says that a single currency is one of the steps it espouses to achieve. Okay, let the imperialists kill all the members who subscribe to the EYAKA.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, we are looking at a situation whereby we must have the Rutos, we must have the Sevens, we must have the people who are fearless to the point that, you see, we are even skeptical when His Excellency, whom we know is very, very straight when it comes to some of these issues like homosexuals and what have you, and when he begins speaking with a tongue in the cheek, that as long as you are doing your thing there, then we, no, but the law is already passed. And we are saying, be clear, since you have already signed the law, the police, now it is left with the agencies, the implementing agencies. When you suspect, go and apprehend, investigate. When you conclude that there was prosecute.
And the same imperialist is whispering in his ear around the clock.
He said the World Bank.
Maybe what is going to happen is that as we go forward, they are going to challenge it in court, and probably they are going to overturn the law. Probably. I don't know. But I don't know where they are going to pass this time around. Because remember in the past, the other one was on quorum. And that's a technical ground. I mean, you didn't have the mandate to pass this. You passed it without quorum.
And I believe under the leadership of Speaker Anita, I believe even if it was overturned today, I believe her resolve, it would be returned and repassed 10 times if need be.
Absolutely. But I don't know. But I don't know really what they are going to do. This, because you see, Africa has reached a point whereby, and it's all over. You saw the clip of the hard talk, the Secretary General of ANC talking to this interviewer from BBC, and he was like, you really expect that South Africa is going to receive Putin at Thabo Mbeki Oliver Tambo rather airport, and then arrest him and hand him over to ICC. Do you really expect that to happen? He said, come on, be serious. That is not going to happen. Yes, we know of our obligations as far as ICC is concerned. But at the same time, we're talking about the head of state. And besides, even if we were to do that, we know of so many.
In your own.
But America is not even part of ICC.
You see, who should actually be, who should have first been ICC long time ago.
But America refused to join.
They have not gone there. America has not done so many things. They are the ones who go sign the climate protocol, then the next day they jump out. We know that, for instance, they are the ones who have frustrated all these, they are the biggest polluters of the ozone layer. The Paris Treaty, which they themselves, by the way, framed, still they are the ones who are undermining it. So we know that, of course, America has done so much, and it has negative, and it has always contradicted itself. But because of the muscle and the media presence, they usually do their own campaign to hoodwink all unsuspecting people that they are actually doing the correct thing.
Yeah, but the president also brought in something, and I liked him on that, on the issue of this issue to be subjected to science. And no, if someone...
The homosexual?
Yes.
It was subjected to scientists, and the report came saying that there is no such a thing as somebody born a homosexual.
It's not genetic, it's not hormonal.
Yeah, because for him he's saying that it is a disorientation.
Psychosocial, yes.
Yes, disorientation. Now, if you say if you take that, and if it is scientifically proven that someone is disoriented in the mind, you can also, which in Ndugu Irumba is saying, is that we can also now say, because this person is disoriented, this person is sick.
He recommended the doctors
yes,
and priests
yes, to
take over from there.
To help them.
But the imperialists are very much against
but
that.
If
they say no.
But now it has two dimensions, because that one will mean that this person, you cannot subject him to legal action, because the person is actually sick.
No, if they agree that they are sick, yes. But if they insist
a sick person does not have to agree, because when you are mad, for example, you cannot consent that you are now mad and you need to be...
no, but madness is different from if you are suffering from another disease, because madness now affects your mental capacity. You know, you cannot think.
Yeah, but that's why the president was recommending that if they start disorientation, then let them be maybe psychologically be talked to by the priest, or to be helped by the medical the health group. But I also realized that maybe there is someone who is insisting that you know, these people have issues, but I think the president on that one was very cardinal, and his guidance may seem like it's moving away from the law which was passed, but actually I found out that it was more elaborate than, because sometimes the law alone may not address certain things if it's rigged, but certain things have to be looked at in terms of society evolution and development. But of course, the issue of Kamuga, you also realized that there was someone complained. I think a child called the parents, said, no, we are confined here and there is a problem here. I think that's why police was responding to that. Yeah, to that call. This was a stress call from that area. And I believe that what police did was, since there was no way of accessing, and you are like saying, suspecting that crime was being committed, something had to be done. And when we come back, we are going to look more at this, but also look at what is happening across the continent. We're having issues in Sudan. We're now having the other issues that are coming up on the continent, and a lot of issues that are affecting the African continent. So please don't go away. We are going to go for a short break, but we shall be back shortly. Stay with us.
Recognized by the Kabaka of Uganda.
Palazzo
in Laves on the 9th of June at the Cricket Oval. 20k ordinary, 50k VIP. Tables go for 3 million shillings. For discounted tickets, use the MTN mobile money by dialing *165 *89 for 15k ordinary and 45k VIP. On Saturday the 10th of June, Mbara Ajip Motel. Sunday 11th of June, Fort Portal Grounds. Friday 16th of June, Luwero Grounds. Saturday 17th of June, Ginger Trans Garden. Sunday 18th of June, Mubende Stadium. Organized by Savavulu Badam. Come and witness the best concert of a new generation. Miss at your own risk. Sponsored by Pepsi Cola, Century Property Royal Estate, Mango Safari, Protea Hotel, Radio Vogue, and MTN.
Eyo jo lese si yange, eyange iri city, tumpa bidara. irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa birala irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa birala mpa irisiti yange.
That's right. Insist on getting your e-receipt. It's your ticket to fantastic prizes, including motorbikes, laptops, fridges, and a fully paid 6-day safari for 2 in Uganda. Take a picture of your e-receipt, upload it to the URA website or mobile app, and you could be the lucky winner. The more receipts you upload, the higher your chances of winning. Terms and conditions apply. More details on our social media channels.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalkwago Complex Suta, UGS Extender, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial *100 *10# to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial *100 *10#. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial *100 *10# to get started.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
Welcome back from that break. We are at UBC looking at issues that affect Africans, both at home here, but also outside of Africa, through this Pan-African Friday discussion. And today, Uganda is celebrating the heroes who have been here, who have sacrificed for this country to be Uganda, and for the respective contributions that they have made. Mainly and mostly, the heroes we are celebrating today are dead, mostly. If we have a few who are living today, there are not many. Now, heroism, like I said, sometimes is a very tricky path to move. If you are to be a hero, sometimes the Christians and Muslims we believe they are martyrs who have made sacrifices through their blood. But today, Uganda is celebrating the heroes. Of course, there's been a big debate. Some people are saying, why would we only celebrate the heroes of those who are identified with the movement? What about the other heroes who have lived before the movement came to power? And what about those others who don't subscribe to that? Of course, it comes about a week ago when we were also celebrating the Christian heroes in Namugongo, and of course we had here discussion whether those were rebels or whether they were heroes. For those who watched that program, we had all those the discussions. So Nduguru Garama, as we look at the heroes of Uganda, they want to look at generally, because this program is watched by people beyond Uganda, those who are watching us from South Africa, those from North Africa, those from Central Africa, those from Brazil, and all other countries outside of this continent. Do we, as Africans, have any heroes to hold and talk about?
Thank you so much, Comrade Mtuta, and to our viewers. The concept of heroism, in as far as my understanding is concerned, is to the extent that somebody has given his or her life for a cause, and a just cause, not for his own benefit, but for the benefit of the general public, a country, group of people, a continent. And in that regard, although there has been a greater misconception that heroes are those that fall in the rank of politics and military, we have had on the African continent and elsewhere great discoveries in the areas of medicine, in art, in music, in religious affairs. The likes of the late Festo Chivenjere is considered a hero. Why? Festo Chivenjere was an evangelist. We have the likes of the builders of the archaeologists, this is in the field of science and in trade, and all that have made a tremendous contribution to the lives of the community, wherever they have appeared. But when you look at the history as it has unfolded and how we have generally considered the heroes to be, it is usually in the ranks of those who were at the forefront of gaining independence for their countries. So you will find people saying that, and maybe also correctly so, that we have got the liberation movements on the African continent, the leaders like the Kwame Nkrumahs, Abdul Gamar, Nasser, the Amilcar Cabral, the Thomas Sankara, the Patrice Lumumbas, and the group as heroes on the African continent. Then when you go to America, and then you look at the civil rights movement, you have the likes of Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you have Minister Luis Farrakhan, you have the Marcus Garvey, and etc. Then they also be considered to be the heroes. But also the American history originally, the 1773, 74, around there, will tell you that those who congregated Washington they are the heroes, because they make America. America wouldn't be America if it was not for such people. Never mind that the part of the other history is that a group of whites from Europe went and invaded a different part called America, where there were natives, and they branded them Red Indians. They exterminated all of them. Then they said that for them, they are the originals, they are the natives of that country. You see, that's why, therefore, the concept of heroism is that you can only survive an episode and emerge as a victor, then you will be considered a hero. Now, coming back to Uganda, we have had a great deal of heroes. But what has also been lacking is who is writing the history. For instance, there are people who have wanted to do away with Kangave Musazi, the Upper Milton Obote. Why? Probably politically they didn't agree with them. But we are talking about people who formed the first political parties, people who organized and brought the political consensus, who delivered Uganda to independence. Obote, who was the very first to give, I think it was the second, the first president of Uganda was not Mutesa.
Yes.
Yes, and then, but Obote, we know, at the end of the day, whether it was being referred to as the prime minister, but the independence, the political independence of Uganda was actually in the hands of Obote. Then from there, we have had what people call, some say, that the National Resistance Army was not a liberation movement. Now, that is another argument for another day. Whoever says that also maybe he or she has got his own reasons. But, okay, for us who say it was a liberation movement, those who participated and they lost their lives, they lost their lives for a just cause. So we have got the heroes within that rank, and we celebrate them. And of course, it doesn't only get limited to that. We have got the Dr. Rukuyes, who died during the Ebola, you remember? Those are also heroes. We've got in Kenya the Professor Wangai Maathai, the icon of climate, you see. So at the end of the day, when you look at, I think that before the death of General Tumwine, he was the one who was heading that committee for awarding. We have medals, medals that Uganda awards. Now, of course, you can critique that and say, at the end of the day, do people eat medals? Maybe they need to do much more than that. But I'm just showing you how the heroism has evolved continentally, then locally here, and where it stretches, not this confining it in the military and the political ranks. It stretches elsewhere, you know. So at the end of the day, we have distinguished public servants also who are considered as heroes, because there's this man in Kabare, the one he used to be a distinguished civil servant. He was one of the heroes in the area of public service. But at the end of the day, history, when it is raped and people choose not to respect others as heroes, they want to water down their history. They selectively write a certain history and negate some facts for purposes of cheapening their contribution to the national cause. That's where the problem comes in. And I think we need to have the discipline to correctly write the history and also time and again emphasize it. Now, I have seen in my numerous travels, especially in Asia, the importance of heroes. Now, it doesn't matter whether you want to call the Kim Il-sung, Kim Il-un, whether you want to call them heroes or not. The Korean people know them as heroes, and it is around that that they have built their resilience. It is now a nuclear power. By remembering, they want to stand on the shoulders of Kim Il-sung and look out there for a Korea, a new Korea, which can defend itself from the external threats of America and all those that are against her. So the importance, you go to Cuba and you look at how Comrade Air Commandante is held up there as a hero, because he gave Cuba the place in the world of history. And it is from there that we have got a Cuba with a very magnificent doctor-to-patient ratio that is compared to none and the healthcare system in Cuba compared to none. Even though those who don't want to say it publicly, they know it, that the health system in Cuba is compared to none. Now, if you go to China and you look at the exploits of Chairman Mao leading to the economic miracle of China, to the extent that China now is the second largest economy and the fastest growing economy, globally speaking. So at the end of the day, we must have these people whom we look up to, who stand out in society and give their all for the good of society. Then from there, us who are still living, we build onto their history, elaborate history, to propel the country and the society in general forward. And to me, therefore, when Uganda continuously remembers those who have been there for the country, and they draw lessons. The problem is failure to draw lessons, and you think Heroes Day is simply to go and pick allowances. You are not taking stock, and that is why finally we in the Pan-African ranks are gearing towards having Africa Liberation Day celebrated continentally. Every country on the African continent. It is our move. The next stage we are moving to address the heads of state at African Union, so that the chairperson can help us persuade not just 12 members of 12 countries on the African continent, which have the Africa Day or Africa Liberation Day as a public holiday. We have had a multitude of public holidays, and I'm not taking away anything. Of course, I can critique. I say maybe probably this one shouldn't be a public holiday, but it depends on which part of the fence I'm standing. All I'm saying is that the many public holidays we have, if you rated them with Africa Liberation Day, where Africa is supposed to take stock of where she has come from, where she is, and where she wants to go, we must not debate, but must pass and have Africa Liberation Day, because it is a day where we can remember our heroes upon whom shoulders we are standing to see the future of Africa. I so submit.
I have here a comment from Robina from Bulawayo.
Robina Nabanjo, Prime Minister?
No.
Bulawayo, that is Zimbabwe. Bulawayo.
Sorry, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, yes.
This is not Robina Nabanja.
Nabanja's too busy. She's in charge of the Heroes Day.
I'm not talking about Robina Nabanja of Uganda. I'm talking about Robina of Bulawayo, who is saying that, or listening to the program, all the attributes, thank you, Robina, but she's saying, why is it that when it comes to recognition of heroes, especially in Africa, we're only talking about men heroes, like Africa is only a continent of men?
May I respond?
Please. Male chauvinism.
No, Robina, I'm speaking directly to you, and Nduguru Garama actually set the groundwork for a response. He said much of the stories we hear, or most of the stories we hear about heroes, are a story of the winners or victors, or dominant powers, dominant whatever it is. So we know that until now, most societies, if not all of them, have definitely been predominantly powered by a male stance, male leaders, and so on and so forth. But I think as the years go by and people understand that women also have a contribution to make, that has been changing. But I think because the structure of society, the hierarchy in society, right down from family life, which had also extended into vocations, extended into every sphere of human life, was very much dominated by the males. So the fact that women have made headway in terms of who tells the stories is why nowadays we have more and more women making it to the place of where heroes should be, It was never a case of women have not been heroes. It was a case of who told the stories, who was in charge of the newsrooms, who was in charge of of TVs, who was in charge of the internet, and so on and so forth. It's a work in progress. But for me in particular, the people I was thinking about, and to talk about more about what Nduguru Garama said a little earlier, this issue of heroes is not just one of courage. And I think in this country, Uganda, we have tended to be biased towards those who shed their blood. And in that, we are really speaking to their courage. But this issue of heroism is three-faceted. It is not just the courage, but there are also cases where heroism is a case of notable achievement. Also a case of outstanding or noble qualities. I think there is why also women have not made it to the hero podium in many cases. Because when it comes to issues of laying down one's life, I think men have disproportionately paid to that degree. Not because women didn't want to, but I think women have tended not to be subjected to the same pressures as men to the point of shedding their own lives. Personally, I'm thinking about Wangari Maathai, for example, who was a noted environmental activist in Kenya until 2011 when she lost the battle to cancer. But this particular madam started the Green Belt movement, and her footprint in environmental terms is quite unmatched, not in this part of the world only, but I think even globally in terms of what women can do when empowered in that very way. She was also the very first woman to earn a Nobel Peace Prize in East and Central Africa, Black African that is. And she's a woman who did not use a gun, and that is nothing against those who have gone that way. But there are people who have also made their contribution without going in that direction. So it is also a call to people who recognize heroes in Uganda here to please work harder, to look further afield, to isolate other elements rather than courage and shedding blood to define heroism. There are people of notable achievement, there are people of outstanding qualities. Coming back home, I'm thinking of a woman who pioneered this movement against HIV/AIDS, Noeline Kaleva. And this woman, along with other medical workers at the time, took AIDS head on when it wasn't popular, when it wasn't fashionable, when the stigma was really right up there. And she did something about the scourge that was AIDS, and on account of her efforts, along with others, the AIDS scourge was not only stagnated in this country, but was put in reverse gear until this day. More recently, there have been very ordinary people for me, and these are women. I'm still talking to Robina. And these women, not very long ago, one of them is a health worker, and she came to the fore for actually putting her life on the line, literally, in your home area, the Elgon area. And this particular woman is a nurse, and she has been scaling the mountains using rudimentary methods, using actually logs that were laid out as a ladder. And this woman climbs these ladders. She's been doing this in the background without anybody's knowledge, and she's delivering health services, singularly, immunization and so on, by scaling this mountainous terrain to deliver vaccines to villages where there are no health facilities, where there are no clinics, to make sure that these children also, partake the vaccination program.
Sure.
She's Nambozo, 35, and in the greater Elgon area. But even before I leave this space, there is also another one about 2 years ago, a woman also. She's also a health worker in the Arua area. This particular woman came to the fore because she wheeled a patient to hospital for at least 4 to 5 kilometers.
The things we were talking about in agriculture.
Because there was no ambulance. Because there was no emergency response.
So
she took it upon herself,
the poor
truly.
people cannot access medical...
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're saying that the reason why more women have not made it to the heroes category is because the storytellers were predominantly men. Because the determinant of the ones who are determining what stories are more important than the other were male. And that is not to say males be damned. That is not it. We are saying that is where we were, but we are evolving. So in the same way, the Ugandan discussion needs to evolve.
Okay, there's some information I'll add on that. Someone was here, but we're here. Dr. Mulumba Nasir, who is a lecturer of public policy, is saying, why can't we also talk about Amin as a hero in Uganda?
He is when it comes to economic. Because you see, he liberated the Ugandans. Of course, these are varying arguments, by the way.
And
because
who's telling the story?
Exactly. Now, when you go to Zimbabwe, and my friend, senior brother, Brian Kagoro, is there, he will say that Robert Mugabe actually became a problem. But when you get down to the common man, and some of the members of ZANU-PF, and other members outside Zimbabwe, you will get senior comrade, may his soul rest in eternal peace, Robert Mugabe, as a hero. Why? He took the most single decision of redistributing land to the natives. And they say with that, the Zimbabwean economy collapsed. I disagree. South Africa is still gambling with the issue of land redistribution, and they are not going to make any headway as long as the economy is captured and remains in the state in which it is. If it is Marema that is going to address that, so be it. If it is ANC that is going to address that, although it appears very shaken, I am telling you that certain decisions must be taken. It doesn't mean, therefore, in my opinion, by getting the, however rudely he did it, by showing the Ugandans that you must do this stuff yourselves. Of course, there are many talking points.
And if he arose from the dead now, he would die once more.
There you go.
I'm telling you, so on account of the negation of his gains.
So at the end of the day, the way he distributed like the businesses, the shops, the people who carried out the
businesses, he would die once more.
It became a problem. But the truth of the matter is, by getting the economy and pressing it back in the hands of the natives and say, here you are, move it or stagnate it. To me, it was a very powerful economic statement. And I think if we had taken it from there, some of these problems that we're experiencing will not be experiencing them.
Now, again, to the point of your point, and Gurumba had something to say on that?
Yeah, I really won't deviate so much from my comrades' submissions already. I also want to re-emphasize the argument that who is a hero depends on who is in power.
Because a hero, if anything happens, could turn out to be a villain. Yeah. So you are the villain.
Now, today's heroes, today's heroes that we are celebrating in Uganda locally, if they had lost the war, they would be villains.
We discussed off the screen the other, shortly said, if, for example, now following up on matters of Namugongo, if Mugajanga by chance, the Mwanga was able to retain his seat, yes, and removed all the Christians and the Muslims from his kingdom, Mukajanga would have been a hero in Uganda. But because the history went against him, now coming to that, someone was again to Robin again in saying about women who are not recognized. No, I personally, as an individual, and this person, I have an issue with my old man, his soul rest in peace, and Nelson Mandela. I at one point, and this an individual view, felt that Winnie Mandela was mistreated. Why? When
unforgiven.
When no, I'm not.
She was not forgiven by the man himself.
Exactly, because when Mandela walks out of the gates of the prison, Robinson. Yes, and is received by Winnie Mandela. one would have expected that the family was now getting back together. But to the level that ANC had to push that, no, this woman was an adulteress and she had a number of issues in the party and we have to get him out of the way. Of course, Winnie Mandela also made mistakes. And one of the things that Winnie Mandela is accused of is that she was messing around with Harlow and other people when Nelson Mandela was in prison. But if you flip the thing and you realize that supposing Winnie was the one in prison and now Mandela was outside prison, would have
7 years.
Exactly.
A very, very, very attractive woman. Would he have waited around?
Exactly.
All that while? Anyway, it is the hypocrisy that has been at the center of human existence since time immemorial. But I think the unforgiving nature of this untenable way of doing things. If, yes, the woman had her issues, but why should, just like he said, the white man says throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If the woman has her downside, does that take away all
the contributions that she has made, including being harassed by police, being carried away as a young woman? To me, I felt hurt on that.
Just
one.
like General Amin, he had his issues. Does that mean he never did anything right?
General Amin.
Field Marshal, actually.
Yeah, it's very true. You see, Ndugu Mtuta, I don't know why you brought in Comrade Winnie, because you are now taking us into a very serious debate. I have always argued, and I want to believe that I have got so many people who argue like I do, that
I thought I was alone.
If it were not for Winnie Mandela, the possibility of Nelson Mandela being wiped out of the history of fighting against apartheid was a very high possibility. Nelson Mandela remained relevant the entire 27 years at Robben Island, simply because Winnie Mandela was available. We all
campaigning tirelessly.
Absolutely. We all appreciate, because when you look at the various Maremas and what have you, these are the babies, these are the sons of Winnie. You see? Yes, granted, we have got the likes of Jacob Zuma, because we know the contribution of Jacob Zuma as far as Marema and group are concerned. But at the end of the day, the women wing of ANC was very prominent in continuing the genuine cause of ANC to do away with apartheid and have the liberation of South Africans achieved. Now, there is, and this is what we were saying, that the male chauvinism, we usually have a problem of not forgiving. I think Rocho called it unforgiving.
The unforgiving, yes.
Simply because there is a possibility that Winnie went with somebody other than Nelson Mandela.
We are talking about
sake,
27.
We are talking about 27 years.
Yes.
And she was a very young woman. Yes, a very young woman.
Beautiful woman.
And progressive.
She didn't even give birth outside Wedlock.
And intelligent.
Yes.
Did she give birth outside
No.
Wedlock?
No.
That was a sign of respect. She should have produced some other children. She didn't do it. Even then, of course, there is a talk that after she had come back, she didn't stay true to Mandela, that she kept her ways. That, but of course, all those are rumors. I don't want to be on a national broadcaster and make statements that I cannot substantiate. All I'm saying is that it was very unfortunate for a man who withstood all the hardships on an island in such excluded prison, all the torments, psychological and otherwise, not to come back and have, even with the presence of people like Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and other religious leaders, not to come back and forgive a woman that was there all those years and kept the family together. To me, it is the minus that my senior uncle, Nelson Madiba Mandela, went with in grave.
Do you have a say?
I took it further.
Okay.
I took it further. Because in 2018, Comrade Rugarama knows that I chair a Pan-African organization called the Pan-African Pyramid, and every August we award Pan-Africans across the globe. Winnie Mandela was awarded as an exceptional leader in the fight against apartheid.
Sure,
and a very, distinguished woman in the continent. So, as we are discussing here, I actually concurred with my soul a long time ago, and I championed the cause to award her. I have not yet awarded Nelson Mandela, by the way. That organization has not yet awarded Nelson Mandela. But we started with Winnie Mandela. To tell the world the story of Winnie Mandela.
Exactly.
Because most people have been telling the story about Nelson Mandela. Even what they don't know, they've been telling the world.
Even when he didn't do what he didn't do.
Even what they don't know, they've been telling the world.
No one has appreciated what she suffered.
But Winnie Mandela, sustaining a war for 27 years on behalf of somebody who is incarcerated.
Yes.
And at the top of the game.
They could even have whipped him away, out in the prison. They could have killed him. But why they feared to kill him is the fire that Winnie kept on the streets.
Yeah.
That if you kill that man,
there will be a problem.
If you think that he's in jail, but you see what is happening on the streets.
That's
and who was
woman.
the commander? Winnie. Does she deserve to be recognized? 100%, and that's why we did it.
Someone is saying, what is the government doing today? I mean, I think talking about the government of Uganda, of some of our living heroes who fought for this country, especially the current government, but are not in the frontline governance and languishing in poverty, deep in villages. This case of Major Bero in Metu Moyo district. I have no idea about that one, but it's talking about Major Major Bero in Metu Moyo district. This is by Andrew Santos Gabriel, NRM candidate of Ajumani.
That is just one of them. Actually, the truth of the matter is that with all due respect to our government, NRM, they are still falling short of recognizing the living heroes, including even the dead heroes, by the way. Because the dead heroes have their families, where they came from, or where they come from. Because in death, the Africans believe we live, and we live through the people we have brought on planet Earth. Now, when you look at those who have made major contributions in the Ugandan history, when you look at their grandchildren and their children, there has got to be a systematic, deliberate program from the leadership to trace down, trace those children, not just dishing out to some isolated appointments. No, make sure that those children actually get education, such that they can on merit compete for any office. Not to wait for them after a few or one has just made it out of life, out of this scramble, and then you say, at least we pointed out one, and we have rewarded him or we have rewarded her. There has got to be a systematic, if it includes a package, that we are giving this package probably annually or monthly, because there is this belief that our resource envelope as a country is very small. I am very sure that if we managed to discipline our expenditure, we would have money as a reserve to cater for the families of those who have made a meaningful contribution to the cause of Uganda, right from the very old history up to the current. It is very common to find people that have made a contribution, and very disturbing, by the way, especially those living heroes, the way they are suffering simply because of underhand methods of those who are around the power. They will want to make sure. There are very many people, I am very sure, who have been dying to see the president. Why do they want to see the president? He's the only one who can answer their queries. But if there was a systematic system that beyond giving them medals, You have also identified them, and there is a scheme under a given ministry of sustaining the people who are living, whether they are grandchildren or children of the heroes. It would make a whole sea of a difference. But to have people who made a difference, I even don't know where the children of Dr. Rukia are. Do you know where they are? And the man died in front line here, Ebola. Saving people, Ebola. You see, we have got people who contributed meaningfully. The very first 27. Don't get surprised to find that their children, some of their children, actually, if it was not for the creation of some of these schools like Kanyarieru, where they can find themselves, they wouldn't even manage school fees, and they end up dropping out. So at the end of the day, my summary on this is that we need a deliberate, systematic program of making sure that we track down our heroes. We put a scheme.
Yeah, I'm told there is an interview which we want to pick from Luwero, where the National Heroes Day function is taking place. I think Lorera is on on site now in Luwero. Can we have the RDC of Luwero for that interview? But for us, we shall still continue. We just hear what is going in Luwero, and we shall continue.
Rowena Kajumba is my name, and we are here at Kasala Catholic Parish grounds, and of course with me here is the RDC, Richard Boulouvier. I don't know if I Boulouvier, yes, Wavier, yes, and he's here to talk to us about the preparations, the celebrations, and I must say this is the 34th as we celebrate our Heroes Day here in Luwero. Now, of course, most of us know the story, but we shall eventually get into it. But you're very welcome, Sevo.
Richard Wavier is my name. I'm the RDC Luwero. Yes. So we are here celebrating the Heroes Day. Yes. The people are happy to have this day. We are appreciative of government to choose Luwero to host the day. Yes. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to celebrate as the district. If you look at the government policy on education, it talks about having at least one primary school per parish. But at least in Luwero, we have 2 primary schools per parish. We have around 101 parishes, but at least each parish, we have 2 government schools. So the government policy in that aspect is really, it has been achieved. You got the secondary education. The policy talks about 1 secondary school per sub-county. At least each sub-county has a secondary schools. Talk about tertiary institutions. They are there. We have 3 universities. In 1986, we didn't have any universities. In 1996, we only had 1 town, that is Bombo town. But today we are talking about 8 town councils in Luwero district. So we have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to celebrate. You look at PDM, the government has already dispersed 5.4 billion shillings. 3.9 billion shillings have been remitted to individuals. Almost 90% of the parishes have remitted money, PDM money, to beneficiaries. So that's why we are celebrating.
Indeed. Someone was talking about the monies that were supposed to be given to the veteran war fighters. And I must say, this is something, when people hear money, they forget the purpose of doing things. They forget that we are doing things for a certain cause, for a certain reason. How do you engage the locals, the people in the area, to let them know that no one is mishandling, no one is mismanaging? Because before anything, people always get into uproar before knowing what is next, before knowing the plan. Now, how do you engage your people so as to involve them in things like this, to make sure they are part of such goals that you have as a government, that you have as a people?
It's actually a role as RDCs to inform the community about government program, and we are doing it continuously. Money for the veterans, according to the minister. The minister assured that the money is there, but they are vetting that list. After vetting that list, veterans are going to be paid.
Okay.
Yes.
So what does this mean to you overall, you know, as Luwero, to have these celebrations come back to where most of these things actually happened? We are celebrating, of course, the lives of people that sacrificed, you know, their whole selves and, you know, left probably their homes and families for a cause. What does it mean to bring this back home?
Yeah, it means a lot to us. It means a lot to us that we must stick. We must stick to the goals, the objective of the struggle. And we are doing it effectively, yes.
Are we realizing the fruits that were bad? Because as per our theme today, where we're saying that Ugandans must indeed rise up, because we are beginning to realize the fruits, you know, of all the sacrifices that were made.
So we are realizing the fruits. We have peace in the country. We have peace in the district. There is development. We didn't have a hospital. But today Luwero is talking about having a hospital. The president has already given us 2 billion shillings to construct a 100-bed ward at the hospital. As I talk now, they are commissioning Luwero Chiwoko Butalangu Road, 29 kilometers. The road is going to be upgraded to Tamaka. So we have a lot to celebrate.
And the monument.
And the monument. Yes. The monuments, they are going to construct one monument, and it will be a tourist kind of attraction. Yes.
Okay. And this is good, of course, for business, for business in this area. When we came here, we saw that it was a busy place, business was booming, the people were engaged, the people were involved. So then how in turn do we see that in the next couple of years or so that Luwero is even greater than it is?
Luwero is moving at a very high speed. Actually, you have not seen, but a lot of development are deep in the villages there. You find somebody having a pineapple plantation of 100 acres. You haven't seen the factories. There are factories in Luwero which were not there before. So at least I see Luwero as a developing district. Yes.
Indeed. So what do you have to say to the people out there whom are here with us through their televisions to commemorate such an important day for both the people in Luwero and, of course, the country at large in regards to celebrating their lives and sacrifices? What do you have to tell to the people out there? Because, you know, some people are thinking, I have your CBFA, that is for NRM. But people need to know that it is not just about NRM, which, of course, originally is. But what do you have to say to the people?
To the people who are watching us, peace is very important. Let's maintain the security in the country. If you maintain security, development will be easier to achieve. And two, let us all engage in income-generating activities. Each of us must get involved in income-generating activities. Yes.
Thank you so much. We've been talking to the RDC. He has been very clear that as much as we're celebrating Heroes Day, we need to look at things like security, economic and financial development, and of course Luwero in itself has grown and is improving in itself. Thank you so much for your time. We're sorry we got you away from it. And I must say that these are things that are quite important to look into and think about at the end of the day. Now remember, it is the 34th celebration here of the Heroes Day, and the theme is saying, rise up Ugandans. We are beginning to realize the fruit, or rather to get the fruit of the sacrifices that were made by these heroes. Now we're looking at about a group of 15, which is alleged about a group of 15 who did lose their lives in the struggle, in the fight to bring on what we would call peace and a new government. And of course, so many people back at home may not understand the importance of this, but it is quite important that we're here today and we're celebrating such an important day back here in Luwero. And of course, those of you who are back at home, we're going to keep bringing you this amazing information and amazing events that are going to happen today. Of course, in the other venue, we're having the laying down of the monument. And of course, this is important, of course, as he mentioned, it is for tourist attraction, but also for the Ugandans and for the locals to learn the story and know the story without just getting the hearsays at the end of the day. We're still here on UBC TV and, of course, Star TV as well. Do not go away. We'll bring you much more. Enjoy.
All the way from Luwero, where the hero celebration is taking place, and any moment, I think from now, we'll be moving to the venue where the functions are being held. Now, coping up on that, there is the councillor of the district councillor of Mpigi, who is saying that I think we need to get the true and balanced definition of a national hero, or else if only another government comes in, we are to get another list of heroes.
Very true. And this obsession with what Ndugu Garema was talking about, erasing history in your own favor, it has been an obsession, particularly here in Africa, because when you see others further afield, whether that is Europe or Asia, they have a way of at least co-opting some of the greats from years past. And of course, they're also not immune to political considerations, social capital, manipulation, and all the other underhand tricks that accompany political actors. As a result, people always pretend that they are the beginners of everything good and everything noble and everything wonderful. They pretend that they are the overseers and the originators of everything that is wholesome and what we should aspire. That way of doing things is really archaic. That way of doing things is untenable, and we must really leave it behind us.
Okay, you can hear this as we move to the next person. Say, Dixon Wachinduka from Kashari, Mbarala, says many of our brothers died in the Bush War, like Sam Magara, Rubereza, Major Kakoza, Kazora, rather, Major Kazora, who are still alive, and many others from here, Kashari. But I wonder why the government can't reward us. Let us have at least a minister from our area.
I think also, Ndugu Mututa, before someone else comes in. Unfortunately, many of these proper times or proper seasons for actual zeroing in on who the deserving heroes should have been all those years ago has in many respects been overtaken by time, I'm afraid. Time how? Because many of the people he's pointing out, for example, are people who this present generation cannot appreciate. Many of them are products of a season through which Uganda went about 40 years ago. But when you're talking to people today who are 25 and 30, and those are people who are really in the center of day-to-day life these days, it is difficult for them to appreciate people who are not elevated to their proper place as heroes all those years ago. To introduce them now brings a disconnect of sorts. But not only that, the situation concerning heroes has also been overtaken by many masqueraders. There are many people now who are not in this thing to actually further the cause of who should be in that place. They're looking for all sorts of other things.
And then it ends with that if it is about survival.
And yet, they are the ones nearest the power centers.
Another one from Bulawayo is saying women and men, has a lot, but I'm reading this only, that women and men who carried out heroic roles to defend their societies, like a host of women like Muhumuza, Kaigiriwa, and Nyina Batwa, led a formidable anti-colonial Nyabingi movement which raged on Uganda, Congo, and Rwanda up to 1928. Women, girls, men constituted a membership referred to politics, religion, and power in the Great Lakes region by Murindwa Rutonga, published in this in that book. It's talking about these heroes, women, yes.
That's Murindwa Rutonga.
Yeah, that there are women who have really carried out movements that have resulted in the liberation efforts of Africa. So women
the Nyabingi she's talking about, it was certainly led by a woman. There's no doubt about it. And that is not the only one. We know that in the Asante,
Yeah,
kingdom.
The kingdom, yeah, the golden stool, yeah.
The protector of the golden stool who said, I will die, but if it means dying by protecting, and to symbolize the power, the golden stool of the kingdom, it was a woman, you see. When you look at the history of Cuba, for instance, we have got a senior lady comrade Marta, you know, that dark-skinned
the black man
woman.
And the black woman, rather.
Yes. And history is littered with a good number of them were pointed out by Rachel here. So truth be told, of course, the history of the hunting in the jungle, we always favor the hunter than the hunted, because you have the ability to tell the story.
Yeah.
And that has been the major undoing of Africa as a continent. We do not have our media. We do not have the culture of writing, publishing, and being able to, and reading as well. So what happens is that the moment you are not in charge of your information generation, dissemination, then it becomes a problem that time and again, your story is going to be told by somebody who, in a majority of the cases, is not interested. Exactly. Is not interested in telling properly your story. So the day they hunted, or the former hunted, because we have been, I'm not sure that we have survived being hunted, we learn to tell our story. Our history will always be told by some people, and it will not be told correctly. The role of women, and in the African setting, you see, there has been also distortions, by the way, that the African societies do not respect women. That's a lie. The issue of, for instance, divorce was never heard of in the African traditional society. No. You would disagree with a woman, and society would dictate that she goes and puts her. The only difference is that you will not be sleeping in the same hut, but she has her hut there.
She has to be there. She's
Absolutely.
going nowhere.
She's not going anywhere. Now, these issues of divorce have now come as a consequence of the spillovers of imperialism.
By the West.
You see, they are the ones who are creating that kind of situation.
The issue of these too much rights has come with a lot of consequences.
And yet Africa, we are a society of values.
Rachel, what's your take on this? Women issues and women rights, are this part of our problem now?
Of course they are. They are front and center. You see, the narrative, the latest imperialist narrative, chooses to distort everything in its course. There is a very active movement that gets bits of truth and bits of good and merges them with a lot of unpalatable underlying policies and intentions and so on and so forth. It is good for any woman to be given a fair shot at a decent education, at a decent life, healthcare, water, sanitation, and so on. But that is not the same as also insinuating that this same woman must overturn the order in her house. Unfortunately, these women activists have perfected the art of getting what is good and proper. And I said that it is good for a woman to have a decent life.
Sure.
But it is not good for a woman to seek to become the man in her house. That is really what these people try to add to the argument.
By the West.
You see, and that is why, for example, at this time, they have the nerve to act as if we are brainless by saying that if you say no to homosexuality, you are also saying yes to HIV/AIDS. What nonsense.
I know it.
Homosexuality by its nature is the #1 driver of HIV/AIDS in sexual terms. It is the #1 driver. So to say that for Uganda to say, look, we don't want homosexuality, that you're also rejecting those who are in that practice who would actually benefit in medical terms. Those are not the same thing.
It's not.
So what they do,
connecting.
You are asking, why is it that these women who contributed meaningfully have not been involved in this, in the picture of heroism, it is because the drivers of the narrative was the colonialist. His interest was to make sure no African child went to school and learned that there were Africans who were intelligent, sensible, had a vision, and had a purpose. So they brought us heroes who are whites, who are Asians, anything but black people. So whoever controls the narrative determines the heroes.
If I can come in there, especially beginning from a comrade grammar. At one time,
and these are the same things that Ndugu Rutanga, Mulindo Rutanga is raising. Doctor, actually, it's a doctor.
Dr. Rutanga, isn't that the brother to Professor Late Kajabago Karsoki?
They come from the same tree. That is political science.
Yeah, it's a
known Pan-African.
Yeah, and one of these days we are going to be with him here.
Now, comrade here brought a very interesting point. At one time I had an argument with somebody. Some family had, and these were my neighbors, some family had a difference, a woman and man, and a very, you know, one of the most feared ladies here, women here, came on media, talked a lot of things, and then he advised them to go to FIDA, and she's even the one who took them to FIDA.
Yeah.
So, I asked a question. I said, these organizations from Europe that come here to settle family affairs, why have they not settled in the same in America and Europe?
With the highest divorce rates.
The biggest rates of divorce are not in Africa.
No.
They're in Europe. So you find an NGO coming from Europe to come here and solve marital problem issues. And you find the women have taken their men in Nakawa there. There is an organization there I don't want to mention.
And they are funded.
Hey, they are funded from Europe. And what is the argument? You find the women lawyers there. They're the ones who are there. They want to bring a man. Tell him now, defend the land here. Then they end up in court. Are you really uniting the family?
They are killing the family.
They are simply killing.
They know that is our strength.
I have always argued that it is nonsensical for a European organization from there to come here and try to solve.
Yet they can't keep their marriages.
When they cannot. In Europe, they even have marriages and contracts. 1 month, 2 months, 1 year. You get it?
And no fault divorce.
Hey.
You said that when his hair is wrong, divorce.
Yes.
You don't have to explain why.
But here, a woman is, and like he said it clearly, a man, an African man, respects his African woman 100%.
Yes.
That's why in an African home, there used to be roles for a man and roles for a woman. That is not to say that a man cannot do a woman's job. No, he can, and wherever there is need, he does. But it is good someone to know this is my by mindset.
Exactly.
This is my role. It's my role to cook. If my husband cooks, it's because he's helping me. But it is my role. It's my role to breastfeed, not the cow. It is not the cow to breastfeed.
Man's role to acquire land.
Yes.
To be able to till.
Hey.
You know, look for markets.
Yes.
Instill that discipline in general.
Yes.
Hey.
So I think before we come to that, we could be having another interview from Luwero to hear what is going on. We shall be coming in and coming out to pick what is going in Luwero until is set. So back to you. Let's hear what is happening in Luwero now.
But they will take their seats. Let them stay there.
We're still here on UBC TV and, of course, Star TV. You can keep watching here. We'll keep bringing you updates. And with me right now is Nze And right here with me is Zaire Cedric Kaguta. He has reminded me of the Cedric. I was just going to say Kaguta. And of course, he is the national coordinator here of the Revolutionary Guard. As you can see, they are all here. I said, we need evidence, we need proof. So they're right here. Now, you're very welcome. Thank you for giving us time to talk to you.
Thank you, UBC and viewers. We are here, of course. It's a very important day in the history of Uganda. We have come back to thank people of Luwero for hosting NRA, which later produced NRM and UPDF. So as Ugandans whom you see here around me, they are Revolutionary Guard volunteers. We said if our brothers and parents died for the revolution, why don't we guard it? So we came back here to make sure we guard the revolution. We guard it in 4 ways: Pan-Africanism, patriotism, democracy, and social transformation. We base on NRM principles, but at the same time, we say NRM has done a lot of things, but bureaucrats and the public service have betrayed us. So we go down to the lower person and find out, do you receive services that government is sending, NRM government is sending, regardless of political affiliation or religion? Are you served? Even if you are not or NRM, you should be served the same way, because NRM won the election, hold the Bible and the soul that it will protect people and their property. But sometimes you find bureaucrats, they are bringing service closer to people, but they don't involve the local people. So we have changed the approach. As young people, we are saying, no, our brothers contributed, our parents contributed, but let us guard the revolution. How do we guard it? We try to fight impunity, corruption, where you go in someone's in public office asking for service, and they ask you, are you on appointment? You find someone from Luwero, Bamunanka, going to Kampala to a certain office looking for service, and you ask him, is he on appointment or her? How do you really someone, a peasant, be on an appointment, say a director or commission? Then impunity. Someone says today, I'm not going to see people. I'm not meeting people. Are you meeting animals? You find, you wait to see which animal is entering the office, you don't see any. So Revolutionary Guards have come out, they are volunteers, they are putting their money, they put their money from Kampala. We partner with the border associations, the tax operators, and other people who want to join us. But we want you media people to join us, because for us, we take long to cover the whole area, but for you to take a minute to cover the whole country. So partner with us. Ours is, there is no politics, there is no religion. What we want, treat Ugandans equally. And before you come to this function, what did you leave behind? Did you put any plan for your family? Because there are hospital bills, there are school fees bills, there are electricity bills. So we want you people see how we can tap in government programs. President Museveni, cabinet, and parliament, they have done the best. But you people, you should stand up and fight for your things. Now President has brought everything to parish model. So can't you walk and go to your parish and see how they are distributing those things? So I thank these members. Is the Secretary General. We have our chairman, Okero Francis. We have, these are our members, executive members, and others are seated over there. I think when you leave this area, you can go and see them. So we thank you. As UBC and viewers, please join us. Let us fight impunity, corruption, and even we make sure that our people get the best services. Before political, before religion, before whatever, we need services.
And I see so many youth here, so many people engaged. Someone said the youth no longer have the spirit for the country, but from what I see, I think they have the spirit for the country. Oh, wow, spirit of the nation. See how that worked out so well.
RG, spirit of a nation. That's our motto.
Indeed. How did I even know? But thank you so much.
Because it's in you, you feel it. Yeah, it's just an
They're better paying jobs, but you choose to be in media because you want bring information to public. So join us. This is the right channel. Partner with us. Where we can walk 100 miles, for you can do it in a minute. Please join us.
That is very true. And thank you so much. I must say this journey is a journey that may not be as easy, because if we're talking about going to the grassroots, you must really be putting in a lot of efforts and work. And we are recognizing that effort right now. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your time. We appreciate. And Pan-Africanism is something that most people have misunderstood lately. Let us go back to knowing what our people need on the roots. Thank you. Thank you so much. There's many more. Not all of them have been seen, but there's many more. And we're still bringing you a lot more. I don't know if I can have someone as well, another one of you guys, to talk.
He's from Luwero.
Yeah. Yes. And he's from Luwero.
I'm from Luwero.
Well,
how is this important to you? Not apart from being a part of the Revolutionary Guard, how is this important to you?
Thank you very much, and I want to appreciate the viewers. What happens is that there was bloodshed, there was loss of lives, there was loss of property, and what brings us down here is not just by coincidence, but it's a place where the NRA war started from. We want to feel the spirit of the revolution, and we just don't want to hear about it, but feel it and walk through it. So that's why we are here in this place, and our major reason is to have the feel of the revolutionary spirit, such that when we learn about the doctrine of the revolution, basing on the 4 principles, we are now aware of the spirit behind the revolution, that spirit of sacrifice, that spirit of patriotism, that spirit of socioeconomic transformation. How can it be felt? It can only be felt when you're on the ground here. And I would tell the Ugandans that you miss a lot when you don't come to such functions like this, because NRM means a lot. And we have sacrificed to come, like our national leader told us. We are still here, and we want to guard this revolution with all our hearts, with our knowledge, with our strength, with our experience, with our network. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now you can hear from these are daughters and sons of the soil, I'm being told. And of course, what does this mean to you? Maybe if you come and then she comes here as well. And then she was, yes. So what does this mean to you? That we have come here not just to celebrate, but to talk about these issues, to talk about such a day, and constantly remind ourselves why we are here today.
As the Bible says, that the wise come from the east and then to the central. That is it. We are in the central and we are blessed. Since our fathers and grandfathers went to the village, to the bush to fight, they are again coming back to show that since the others went, they are also new generation. They cannot forget the new generation. That's why we are here. We are saying, spirit of the nation, Araji, Araji. They went to the bush and we are here to protect why those people went. Yes.
Don't forget where you went.
Of course.
Here today, we've come to not just celebrate, but to remind ourselves why our parents, our grandparents sacrificed a lot. We come from Luwero. We saw the war. We were very young, but we saw the effects of the war. Now, joining RG, we are saying, as people of Luwero, has service delivery reached us? This is what we are demanding, accountability. Our parents shed their blood. But now, for us who are here, have we received the services from government? Because government services are provided. But then, if we do not come out to check on whether delivery has reached, whether the services have reached the common person, then the revolution cannot stand. We are here to guard the revolution. But then we're also saying service delivery is needed to the grassroots in Luwero, effective service delivery. So as Luwero people, we have a lot to demand for.
I love that. Now, because of time, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've done so well, and we wish you the very best of luck. Indeed. Such a nation. Yeah. All right. Now, of course, I must say that we're going to have so many of these very passionate people come and join us. Of course, now that that was Nzaire Kaguta, who is the national leader of the team here that has been here to talk to us and celebrate with us, the Revolutionary Guard, rather. And you can see how excited, how motivated they are. And it's not just them. I'm sure so many Ugandans are feeling the same. So many Ugandans, when we go back and remember and reminiscence, it means we are not forgetting why we are here and how we are here. Now, some of those things that are key for many Ugandans know that we are all a part of this. It's not just about the NRM currently or NRA at the time. It is now an issue of Ugandans and how we understand and how we pick and take this conversation on. Now, keep watching UBC and Star TV. We are going to be showing you a lot more, discussing a lot more. Let's take you back into studio.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kajumba from Luwero. I think Luwero is heating up. A lot is happening there. Exactly. Yeah, with the Revolutionary Guards all over the place. It's interesting to be there. Of course, we'll be bringing you all the details from Luwero soon as we wind up with this program. We've been bringing this to show you where we're heading immediately after here. And I'm told the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Robin Anabanja, will be the chief guest at that function in the absence of the president, who told he went on leave, and apparently the vice president being out of the country. So in that order, the prime minister, who is the leader of government business, will be presiding over the functions at Luwero. Many people have sent in a lot of comments during that break, but because of time we may not be able to go through all of them. I have only picked this one where, excuse me, one is saying, who has laid a wreath of recognition on the tomb of President Milton Obote in Akokoro?
What, is it happening right now, or he wishes it would happen?
Who has laid a wreath?
Yes, of recognition.
I have been to the tomb myself in the capacity of the Pan-African chairman with some colleagues. Now, his question probably, is he or she?
A he.
A he. His question must be in relation to government recognition of the contribution of Dr. Apollo Milton Obote as
I think that's what he's saying.
The helm of independence. I am not so sure, but in case it has not happened, because it's not just merely laying a wreath. I think the point really he's trying to make is that are we giving the late Apollo Milton Obote the due respect as a national hero of Uganda's independence? And probably we are not doing enough. But of course that now is the mainstream government. Yes, we are all government, but there are people charged with certain responsibilities.
But you know, there has been this discussion, and I think it needs to be provided for well, clear in the Constitution, of when a head of state dies, where to bury. There has been a debate in many of the African countries. Should we have, excuse me, the common burial for all heads of states? Or should we, after the head of state dies, goes back to the family?
But you must.
Are you a property, like we in government say, you become a property of government? Up to what level?
It doesn't mean that, and I think our people must get this one correctly. When they say you are going to be buried at Kororo ceremonial grounds, it does not mean that you are being taken away from your people. Actually, that is an honor. It is a distinguished honor of the highest order, that you are no longer merely a member of your family. Your family is the entire country.
Yes.
And I think that is a step, you know, is a big step. Although we have had individuals who make requests that for me, please don't bury me anywhere else. I want to be buried at my ancestral home. Now that's a different matter. But when it is enshrined and there is a law
in the
that
Constitution,
this is where we bury our heads of states, whenever they transition then that one is a different thing altogether.
Exactly.
But I think the bottom line here is, in the case of Uganda, we must look at the political history of Uganda. We may not have had our past heads of states being buried in one place, mainly because of how they have left power.
That's true.
And how do they come? And when they come, who recognizes them as such? And how, under what circumstances are they buried? Short of that, I think we should be having a common burial ground.
Yeah, thank you so much. Viewers, we'll still continuing these programs, but we, unfortunately for now, will have to stop it at this moment, because we then need to take you to Luwero to continue with the live broadcast from there of the heroes celebrations that are taking place in Luwero. And the studio, we have been the usual panelist, Sister Rachel Takali, Ndugu Irumba, and Ndugu the Pan-African man himself, who last time the woman was saying, is that man yellow or white? I don't know what he means. And Gurugarama. But we'll be continuing next week with the discussion about the African issues. For now, we thank you having spent your time with us, and we ask that you continue watching UBC with the continuing programs until next week on Friday, when we shall meet again. Have a nice weekend and be at peace. Thank you so much.